Good morning, good afternoon, I guess, and welcome to the big show. I am Paul Zeise, as we do it every single day here with the big show. We talk sports, we do all kinds of good stuff, and always have a good thing, good subjects to talk about. I don't know if any of you saw the story about Maxx Crosby, but that's actually kind of relevant to all of you guys, to be honest, or at least to TJ Watt, because I think, the Steelers are now going to try or they have been actually trying to figure out if they're going to sign TJ Watt. And they said it's a priority to sign TJ Watt. And I think that when you look at that whole situation, it's going to cost them a lot of money right now. I mean, I think there's this idea that somehow TJ Watt is going to take less, or he's going to take some kind of a discount, or he's going to, be willing to do it for a lot less. I think that's kind of foolish, if that's what you really believe, because I look at it like this. This is probably going to be his last deal. So this is kind of what I would call his retirement deal. And, I don't know that he's going to be willing to take less money in order to, stay with the Steelers. And now sort of the market has been set in that he is basically, they just made Maxx Crosby the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. And it's very similar if you think about it. Now, he's got one more year. So, the counter argument to that would be, he's going to be, 32 years old, I think TJ Watt's going to be. Maxx Crosby's only 27. So those 5 years are obviously something that they're probably going to – actually, he's going to be 31 years old. So he's really only 4 years younger. 4 years older, but still those 4 years might be worth a few dollars. But I'm looking at what Maxx Crosby got, and I got to be honest with you. 3 years, $106.5 million, $91.5 million guaranteed. That's really, if you think about it, those are big numbers. And one of the things that he did, he had 2 years left on his deal. He ripped up the last 2 years of his deal to make this one happen. So let's say that the Steelers want to try and do something similar with TJ Watt. Are you willing to say, yep, we're going to give this guy 3 years, $106.5 million bucks? That's, $99 million. What is that? That's $35 million a year, basically $36 million a year for TJ Watt. That could end up being like 3 times what you're paying your quarterback. But at age 31, I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. We've talked a lot about TJ Watt. We've talked a lot about the fact that, if you think about what the Steelers are basically going to, be paying him. It's important. It's important. It really is to be thoughtful, because you got to make sure that you have. You got to be sure that you have the ability to pay a quarterback if a quarterback comes down the road. And that's what I would tell you about. It really doesn't make a lot of sense for me to tie this much money up when you've got offensive players offensive players that you have to get to, and you're going to have to pay, because that is really, really going to be the most important thing that happens over the next few years. And that is basically they've got to be willing to pay. They've got to be willing to pay on offense. There's been a lot of talk about receivers. I'm just not all that excited about it, to be honest. Another one became available today. It feels like he's the kind of guy that probably, if the Steelers they're not getting better. And that's just probably not, me guessing. I just don't think he's a guy that gets them better. And that's, of course, Christian Kirk from Jacksonville. They've got enough of those guys. But he was let go or whatever. They cut him, or they're going to cut him, or whatever the day is. They're allowed to cut guys, or whatever the actual calendar is. I think Monday is free agency starts or whatever. But Christian Kirk got cut by Jacksonville. He doesn't make the Steelers better. He's basically the same kind of player that they already have. That's just what it comes down to. I don't really, think that if you sign a guy like him, it makes you better. I just don't. I think the reality of the situation is they have to go out and get somebody that is different than what they have. They already have enough slot receivers. They already have enough guys who are just sort of guys. They already have enough guys who just are sort of not good enough. And to me, that's really kind of what you don't want, is to, duplicate at a position you're already not good enough. I mean, what's really the difference between Christian Kirk and, say, Roman Wilson or Calvin Austin or, even Van Jefferson or these guys? I mean, is he really an upgrade? I just don't think he is. That's just me. I have no interest in him. I know he's the guy that people are talking about, but the reality is I just have no interest in him because I don't think he makes them better. And I really just want them to go get guys that are going to make them better this offseason. Obviously you need to go get depth and all that stuff, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see if they do better than just depth guys. That's what I would tell you. Honestly, it's basically going to be interesting to see if they actually go out and try and get better. One of the things I'm going to tell you is, Jerry Dulac was talking about the Steelers should think about moving up in the draft to draft a defensive lineman. I actually wouldn't hate that. That's somebody that, to me, if you go up and you get a defensive lineman and he's an impact player, it makes your team better, I think, at a position they need to get better. It's one of those things where, and he was talking specifically a defensive tackle. Yeah, probably a defensive tackle. If they go up and get a defensive tackle who's a stud, a guy that can really change the game for them, that might be worth moving up for. But I don't know if there's other guys that you want to move up for that, at other positions, if you're going to give away trade capital. To me, defensive lineman would make some sense because defensive lineman, if you get a stud, it can change your team immediately. If you look at the Eagles, one of the best things about the Eagles is their defensive line. And their defensive line, and it gives them the ability to dominate with just 4 guys rushing, and they have 7 guys that cover. It makes it really difficult to move the ball against them. And I think that's the key to me. So, I look at, as we inch closer to free agency, we all have our, what are our needs? I've said this from day one, and I'll say it again. Justin Fields should be their guy. They should have made that decision a long time ago. Okay, we know what it's going to cost us to get Justin Fields. Let's subtract this from our salary cap, and now let's really take a look at a receiver. Whether we have to trade for one or get one. A corner, whether we have to trade for one or get one. And a defensive lineman. And to me, if you can draft one of the 3 positions to get a guy that's ready to really help you, usually defensive linemen are pretty good if you get the right guys. So I think that really, if you look at what they have to do this offseason, they have to go out and make sure that they make themselves better at all of the positions they need to make themselves better at. That's what I would tell you. And defensive line, corner, and receiver are the 3 positions they absolutely need to get better at. So to me, but as for the Maxx Crosby stuff, these are the kinds of stories you have to watch and watch them play out because they're going to affect things that happen with the Steelers. I mean, you might think that Maxx Crosby has nothing to do with the Steelers. He doesn't, but his contract is going to have a lot to do with what Watt and his agent are asking for, and that's a key. Some of what's going to happen with guys like T. Higgins and some of these guys that are at the top of the receiver board. And I know that they franchise tagged them, but they want to franchise tag them to see if they can work out a long-term deal. Those deals go a long way to telling you what the market is for a receiver in terms of how much you have to pay. So things that happen just sort of out there with other teams, oftentimes, even though it's not specifically about the Steelers, it can actually matter, period. Now, we're going to get back to the Steelers in a little bit, but first, we've got to go to our good friend who's in Florida with the Pirates, covering the, what do we call them now? The Bradenton Bombers, I guess, after today's
game. So. Yeah.
They hit the heck out of the ball today. Clearly, the Pirates are now starting to play spring training games, so you've seen, a little bit of a sample size. And what are some of your observations, Noah?
Yeah, I think the first observation is most of the pitchers we know are going to be on the opening day roster have looked really good. The young guys have added some pitches to their repertoire. They've looked pretty impressive. Some of the veteran guys, I think, are where you would like to see them as far as velocity, as far as, being able to lean on their secondary stuff. So that's my first takeaway. I mean, this is a team that's going to win with its pitching, and the guys that they're going to lean on have all looked pretty solid so far. My other takeaway is some of the guys that they need to have bounce back seasons, somewhat guys that they maybe didn't get the production from that they were hoping to in 2024 have also looked good. I mean, Henry Davis has had a really good spring so far. Ke'Bryan Hayes has had a really good spring so far. Jack Sawinski's hitting the ball really well. I mean, if you get good years at the plate from those three last year, that's probably a playoff team. And if they can carry the success over into the regular season, which is obviously easier said than done, this team will have a much better shot of, competing in 2025.
From what you can see, who is going to be the right fielder? Who's going to be the first baseman until what's the name gets healthy? Who is going to be the DH? I mean, there's lots of questions here for you.
Yeah. No. So Reynolds will be the everyday right fielder this year. Tommy Pham will probably be the everyday left fielder to start the year. I don't know if that's permanent. They're saying that that's the plan, but I say that with skepticism just because they started Reynolds in right field last year and they moved him over to left field again. So maybe that happens again, maybe it doesn't. First base is the big area of question. I think McCutcheon's got DH locked down, and they'll probably DH Reynolds or Bart in the games where he's not playing designated hitter. First base is interesting. That's the big position to focus this spring. We've seen a lot of different guys play there. Veteran guys who have played the position before, young guys who have played it in the minor leagues, or even guys who are learning the position. Right now, I would say the favorite for the job is DJ Stewart. He's a non-roster invite, a guy with 7 years of big league service time, someone who's been around the game, hasn't played a ton of first base in the major leagues, a little bit more playing time there in the minor leagues, but he's hitting the ball. He's getting on base a lot, and he swings a left-handed bat, which helps kind of replace Horwitz, who's also a left-handed hitter. And I think, defense might be a little bit of concern there just because of the unfamiliarity with the position, but it helps that they have a Gold Glove utility man to come off the bench and probably log the back 3 innings of a game if he were to be their starter.
Well, you mentioned Tommy Pham. Can he hit well enough to be an everyday player?
I think that's a big question. He was an everyday player last year, albeit for, the worst team in baseball. But I think he will start the year as an everyday player. Now, if you're looking at what's best for this team moving forward, maybe it would be in a platoon role. I don't know. I think the Pirates certainly value what he can do in a handful of different ways. I think that at the beginning of the year, we're going to see him in an everyday role, and we're going to see him at the top of the order. That's where he's been batting a lot in spring. It's an area that he's very familiar with. If you look at his career, he's logged over 1,000 plate appearances in the leadoff spot. So, yeah, I think he is an everyday player for now.
I read something the other day about G1 Bay. Do you think he's a guy that makes the 25 or 26 man roster, whatever the hell we call it, at the end of spring training?
It's 26 now, and no, I don't. I just think there are too many other guys who, I mean, he has such a unique skill set with his speed and athleticism, but I just think that, I mean, where do you play him? He's not going to play center field ahead of Cruz. The middle infield spots are occupied by other guys. They have backup. They have reserve infielders who can hit from the left side. Guys like Adam Frazier, Valdez, who's having a nice spring. Yeah, I just don't see where he fits on the opening day roster. I'm sure we'll see him at some point this year in the major leagues, but I don't think he makes the opening day roster.
Lavor, Peguero.
Leover
How do you
Peguero.
yeah.
Leover Peguero.
Yeah, Leova Peguero. Where does he fit in?
Well, I mean, he's an interesting case. I mean, when you really look at their 40-man roster, this team doesn't have a lot of true shortstops, and I think he's one of the lone exceptions. I think they have guys who can play that position, but a lot of those guys who can play the position are versatile defenders, and they can also play third, second, short. And Peguero can as well, but I think his best position right now is shortstop. So I think that gives him a shot. It's just more, he's got to prove that he can hit at this level. And last year was his first full season in AAA. I think he made a lot of defensive strides, and offensively he wasn't terrible. It's just he's got some more work to do, and he would agree with that. But I mean, he's still 23 years old. He's got a year of options remaining, but this is a big year for him. I think there's an opportunity with IKF being a free agent at the end of the year that if he performs well, this could potentially be a year where he sets himself up to be the shortstop of the future. But in order for him to do that, he's got to take strides forward as a hitter.
I think that overall, that's what people are really concerned about with this team is trying to figure out what the lineup is going to be and whether these guys can actually hit consistently enough to score enough runs to, help the pitching staff out. You look at the lineup, it still seems like there might be some holes that were there last year. But some guys that we're going to continue to ask about. Henry Davis.
Yeah, I'm really encouraged with what I've seen from Davis this year, or this spring, I should say, both defensively and offensively. He's made some changes to his swing that I think complement his game a lot more. He's not struggling in some of the areas where we saw him struggle last season. He's timing fastballs a lot better. He's hitting the ball to all fields. And I think he's really quietly become a solid defender behind the plate. I know the Pirates were really proud of his defense at this time last year and the strides that he made, but he's continued to develop there. So I think he has a very good shot to make the opening day roster and see regular playing time. I know he had a really good spring last year, and that didn't translate over into the regular season, but the changes that he's made have me a little bit more encouraged that he can be better in 2025.
Yeah, and I'm not a catcher, though, right?
Yeah. Oh, no, I think he will be a catcher. Yeah.
Okay,
I think
so but you got three of them now.
Right, that's the challenge here. But I mean, I think there's a way to work in some games at DH. Endy's a different case, and not that I think it's for ability, but you got to remember this was a guy who missed all of last season. So I think they're going to be a little bit more gradual with his progression. But it's an interesting dilemma. But at the same time, as well, I mean, catcher is a position where you're going to need 3-4 guys to get through a regular season with. So it's definitely a strength for this team that they have some depth at that spot.
Yeah, I mean, Endy, you got Henry Davis, and you got obviously Joey Bart, who apparently is hitting the ball very well.
Yeah.
This spring training. Could it be that he's actually a good player? That last year wasn't sort of a little bit of a fluke, and that he might actually be a good hitter.
Yeah, I mean, this was San Francisco's Henry Davis in a lot of ways. He was a high pick, second overall, a star in college baseball, a power hitter. I mean, this was a guy that San Francisco viewed to be the next Buster Posey. And obviously things didn't work out there, and the Pirates got him for next to nothing. But it was a really good acquisition. And, I mean, the defense, I think, is still something that he's working on. But offensively, I mean, this is a guy that I think, if he can stay healthy, can be a potential 20 home run bat. And not a lot of teams get that from their catcher position.
Obviously not really knowing who's the starter or the opposing starter. Is it reasonable to suggest or to think, wait, they start on the road or they start at home?
They start on the road in Miami.
Okay. So and they have 6 games, right? They play in Miami.
They play 7. They play 4. Yeah, 4 in Miami, 3 in Tampa Bay.
Okay, so is it reasonable to think that the Pirates will throw Skeens on the first night? Because then you go through, if you look at it, then you go through 5 days. So he wouldn't pitch until like the second or third game at PNC Park, and that's probably better because there's no tickets that are sold. They don't need him to sell it. They don't need him to pitch the opener. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It depends on how you want to line it up. Do you want? I mean, there's other guys who I think have the credibility that are capable of being an opening day starter. So maybe if it's Keller in game 1, you pitch Skeens on that Saturday, and that puts him in line to pitch the home opener and then pitch a second time in the first homestand. And that would certainly be great for the Pirates as far as ticket sales and everything go. But I don't know. I think that's a conversation we're going to have pretty soon here, but it's something they haven't decided as of now.
Okay, not knowing who the other starter is it reasonable for me to suggest that right now, from all you've told me, all I've read, all I've observed, everything that we're talking about, the outfield on the opening day, because again, we don't know if it's a righty or lefty, so let's just say general starter, whatever. The outfield on the opening day will be Pham in left, Cruz in center, and Reynolds in right. That's basically what you're saying. Yep. Would you say it's reasonable to suggest Joey Bart at catcher to start? Obviously, Hayes at third, Kiner Falefa at short, correct? Gonzalez at second base. And who did you say would be probably the opening day first baseman?
I still think that one's way up in the air. But right now, if I had to pick someone, I think it'd be DJ Stewart.
Okay. McCutchen, because it's opening day, McCutchen a DH?
Yep.
Is that a reasonable kind of what the lineup could look like?
That's what I predict it to be at this point. Yes.
You look around the NL Central. I mean, the Reds are still kind of a disaster.
Yeah.
I know the Brewers just signed 97-year-old
Quintana.
Jose.
Yeah.
But he's actually been pretty good. So, I mean, maybe he'll be a guy that, is their fourth or fifth starter is not bad. The Cubs were a young kind of up-and-coming team last year with some guys that were, younger guys that were getting opportunities. And the Cardinals are the Cardinals, I guess. I mean, this is a division that's winnable, isn't it?
It's very winnable. I think the Cubs are probably the favorite because of some of the moves they made in the offseason. I think the addition of Terry Francona makes the Reds a better team just in general. And when you add that type of manager, you're going to have a really good chance of winning. And they also made a couple of nice off-season additions to their lineup. But, yeah, I mean, the Pirates are going to have the best pitching staff in the division. The Pirates are going to have, a couple of solid hitters that stack up well against those other teams' best hitters. It's just a matter of getting the most out of the guys that this organization believes in, guys who they invested in via first-round draft pick, invested in via contract extensions, guys that they sought for in trades when they were prospects. If they can get the most out of the guys they believed in from the very start, this is going to be a team that can compete for the division.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's going to be one of those years where you really, really you have to just believe that this is going to be a frustrating year if they don't make some moves upwards in the standings. Just from the standpoint of this is a division they could actually win if they just put a little effort into it.
Yeah, it's when you look at the talent that they have at a very affordable price. It'll be frustrating for fans, I'm sure, if success does not happen this year.
Last one, and I'll let you go, buddy. Are we looking at a rotation of Skeens, Jones, Keller, Falter, and Oviedo?
No,
Or
Oviedo was just placed on the 60-day injured
oh, that's
list.
right.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
and
I just
it'll
saw that. You're right.
yeah, and it'll be Andrew Heaney, the guy that they just signed as a free agent at
Okay.
the end of last month. So, and I think that's a solid rotation: 3 righties, 2 lefties. You got some veteran guys in there with some young talent, a lot of velocity, and then you got some guys who pitch to contact and get quick outs. So there's a lot of complementary arms in that group.
We won't see Bubba Chandler, to start, will we?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think they want to start him in AAA.
Noah, you're down in Florida. It looks beautiful behind you, so hopefully you can go out and enjoy the nice night. Thank you so much, as always. Hopefully we can do it again before the end of spring training, and we'll see you soon, sir.
Absolutely. I'll see you soon, Paul.
All right, that's Noah Hiles breaking it down again. The frustrating thing about the Pirates is this is a division they could win. It's not like this is a division, 10 years ago when the Cubs and the Pirates and the Cardinals all won 97 games or more. It's not that at all. Just a little bit of effort. Just a little bit of effort. Go out and sign 1 or 2 real players. Put a couple of bucks into the team, and this team could have a shot to do something. That's what's going to frustrate me the entire season. The entire season, it's going to frustrate me. Knowing full well that, you know what, they could probably win this division with like 89 wins or something. And, if they get to like 80 wins, they'll act like we're supposed to celebrate that. No. Go find some guys to bolster your team, to bolster your lineup. I think there's some good pieces there, but it's not good enough. And you got too many holes in your lineup right now. And the thing about it is you've got to sacrifice a little bit of offense for defense or defense for offense. That's never a good formula. So to me, it can be done if they want to do it. But they got to want to do it. And I don't know that they have ever demonstrated that they really want to do it. And that's what's really frustrating to me. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to do a better job of in the offseason going out and getting some players. And honestly, that's a good segue. By the way, the game's always on at Archie's. Get down to Archie's on Carson Street. Archie's, home of 80-cent wings. Monday through Thursday, home of the Paul Zeise grilled cheese sandwich. So get down to Archie's. Tell them I sent you when you get there. I will say this. That's a good segue to what I was talking about with the Steelers. It's so easy to see, if you ask me. The Steelers this year need to be that team that on the first couple of days of free agency go and actually get a couple of the top names at a couple of the positions. I keep saying it. I'm going to keep saying it till I'm blue in the face. We always rip the Pirates because they don't go out and do that. But guess what? The Steelers need to do that too. Period. They need to do that. That's all I'm telling you. And if they don't do it, then they're really going to be in trouble. Because it's going to be the same thing that it's been for however long, the same exact team, the same exact issues, the same team that goes out and wins 10 games and then loses in the playoffs, or 9 games and loses in the playoffs. It's, again, a frustrating time. It really is. Because to me, it doesn't feel like they're going to go and make the moves that you need to make to truly impact your team. And the other frustrating thing about it is for the last 4 years, or whatever it's been now, they haven't paid their quarterbacks anything. They should be out there actively going out and getting big name guys at corner, at receiver, at defensive line, paying some money, right, to players that can have an impact on your team. That's what you need to do. And that's how you need to take advantage of it. The fact that you don't pay a quarterback, this offense, you should be pumping money into a couple of really key positions to make the offense better. We're going to see what they're going to do, though. We'll see it. Next week, we'll know. I'll be able to tell you by the end of next week if they're serious about trying to really contend in the AFC. Hate to say it, I'll know by the end of next week. That's the way it goes. Got to get it done. At any rate, you got Pitt Hoops tonight. Later this week, we've got the trade deadline for the NHL. We'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow. And obviously, we will continue to track all of the developments that go on in the NFL and try to make sense of them for how they fit with or how they affect the Steelers. Till such time, when we meet again, enjoy your night.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.